silent anguish of constant noise. We live in a world saturated with noise, external noise, the perpetual hum of social media, the demands of work, the expectations that surround us, the infinite bombardment of information that never stops. And then there is the internal noise, the endless chattering of thoughts, fears, desires, anxieties that are always present. This ceaseless movement, the constant whirl of energy, creates a disconnection from ourselves, from the present moment. We feel lost, anxious, pulled in every direction but inward. But what if, for just a moment, you were to stop, to let go of everything that demands your attention, even the mental chatter that you call your thoughts? What would remain? What would emerge if you allowed the silence to fill the space? Silence is not the absence of sound. It is not emptiness. Silence is the fertile soil where life begins to speak, where truth emerges from within, untouched by the chaos around us. Silence is where the soul is revealed, the fear behind the noise. This noise, this incessant need for doing and achieving, this rushing forward without pause, what is it all really about? Perhaps it is the fear of disconnection, the fear of uncertainty. We drown ourselves in noise to avoid facing the stillness that might reveal something we are not yet ready to confront. In the silence, there is no escape. There is only what is, and that is terrifying. But could it also be the key to freedom? Could silence, in its purity, be the doorway to self-realization? When we listen to the world outside, we often forget to listen to the world within. The inner world, the part of us that has been drowned out by the endless external stimuli. What happens if we turn our attention inward and listen with the same intensity, with the same presence, that we listen to the noise around us? Listening as a practice of self-transcendence. To listen deeply is to transcend, to let go of the judgments, the expectations, the need to do something with what we hear. Listening is not just about hearing sounds. It is about absorbing them. It is about surrendering to the moment, to what is being revealed. Silence does not need to be filled with words. It does not need to be filled with anything. It simply is. And in that stillness, we can hear what is not being said, what is beyond words. Allan spoke about silence not as something to be feared, but as something to be embraced. He invited us to stop seeking answers outside ourselves and instead, to listen within. The silence is not a void. It is not an absence. It is the space where we can reconnect with our essence, where we can hear the whispers of the soul that are drowned out by the noise of the world. Jung and the process of individuation. Carl Gustav Jung believed that true self-realization, or individuation, can only happen when we allow ourselves to listen to the unconscious. This is not the kind of listening that demands an answer or a quick resolution. It is a listening that requires patience, openness, and receptivity. The unconscious speaks to us in symbols, in dreams, in images, in feelings that we often cannot fully articulate. These are the messages that guide us toward who we are meant to become. In order to truly know ourselves, we must listen, not just to our thoughts, but to the deeper hidden layers of our psyche. The unconscious speaks in a language that is foreign to our conscious mind. To listen to the unconscious requires that we stop trying to control, to analyze, and instead, we allow ourselves to be immersed in the mystery of what lies beneath the surface. The trap of constant doing. We live in a world that values doing over being. We are encouraged to achieve, to reach goals, to produce. But in this pursuit, we lose something essential. We lose the connection to the present moment, to the simplicity of just being. The constant need to do, to move forward, to achieve, becomes a trap that keeps us from connecting with the now, with the essence of who we are. What happens when we are always busy, but never truly satisfied? The constant search for results keeps us running, but it also keeps us from living. We are so focused on achieving the next thing that we forget to be present with the current moment. The present moment, where life is always happening, is the place where we can truly listen to ourselves. But only if we allow ourselves to stop. Escaping the trap of doing. Take a moment to reflect on this. How often do you rush through life, checking things off your to-do list, only to find yourself at the end of the day feeling like something is missing? The mind, in its constant need to do, to be in control, does not allow us to be present. And in this lack of presence, we lose touch with the deeper rhythms of life. We lose touch with ourselves. Silence, on the other hand, teaches us how to simply be, to stop doing, to stop running. When we listen deeply, we are not trying to fix anything. We are not trying to achieve anything. We are simply being present with what is. And in this presence, we begin to reconnect with our true self. Listening to connect with the whole. Listening deeply is not only about hearing sounds, it is about connecting with the whole of life, the whole of existence. When we truly listen, we begin to perceive the interconnectedness of everything. We are not separate from the world around us. We are a part of it. The same life that flows through the trees, the rivers, the stars, flows through us. And in silence, we can begin to perceive this connection. When we listen, we begin to understand that there is no other. There is only life, and we are part of it. This connection is not something that can be understood with the mind. It is something that must be felt, experienced. In silence, we drop the barriers that separate us from the world. We open ourselves to the truth that we are one with everything, the invisible error. But there is a trap, an invisible error that we often fall into. The mind, in its constant search for control, creates patterns, beliefs, and expectations. We believe we are thinking, but often we are simply reacting. Mind becomes cluttered with noise, thoughts that are not our own, fears that are not ours, anxieties that do not belong to us. In this noise, we lose touch with our true voice. We become victims of the noise within. The mind becomes a cacophony of distractions, and in this distraction, we forget who we are. We identify with the noise, with the thoughts, with the ego, and we believe that this is all there is. Reprogramming through active listening. But what if, instead of trying to silence the noise, we allowed ourselves to listen to it? What if, instead of reacting to the thoughts and emotions that arise, we simply observed them? This is the practice of active listening. Listening with the intention not to judge, not to react, but simply to understand. When we listen in this way, we begin to break free from the patterns of the mind. We begin to reprogram ourselves, not by forcing change, but by allowing it to happen naturally. Create space for new possibilities to emerge. We allow ourselves to become more receptive to life, to the present moment. The paradox of the silent mind. The silent mind is not empty. It is full of new possibilities, full of new insights, full of freedom. When we stop trying to control what we think, we create space for creativity, for intuition, for deeper understanding. The mind becomes a fluid, flowing river, instead of a rigid structure that needs to be controlled. Silence. We are not empty. We are full of everything that is. The paradox is that the more we let go, the more we receive. The more we stop controlling, the more we become. Silence does not take away from us. It gives us everything. It gives us life. It gives us ourselves. Listening to the unsaid. There is a language beyond words, a language that speaks through gestures, through emotions, through the spaces between words. When we listen, we must listen not only to what is said, but to what is unsaid, to the feelings that arise, to the gestures that speak louder than words, to the silence between the words. Allan often spoke about the importance of perceiving the unsaid. The deeper truths are not always spoken aloud. They are felt, they are sensed. In the silence, we begin to hear what cannot be heard by the ordinary mind. We begin to hear the language of the soul. Silence as an antidote to fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety are born from the future, from the past, from the constant need to control what we cannot. When we allow ourselves to listen deeply, we stop being governed by these fears. Silence creates the space necessary for us to reconnect with the present moment. And in the present, there is no fear, there is no anxiety, There is only life, and that life, in its simplicity, is enough. The more we listen to the silence, the less power fear and anxiety have over us. We begin to understand that they are not our true nature. They are just passing clouds in the vast sky of our being. When we listen to the silence, we realize that everything we seek is already within us. The transformative power of listening and reconnecting. What happens when we listen deeply? When we listen not with the intention to fix, but simply to understand. We begin to change, not in a way that can be measured, not in a way that can be controlled, but in a way that is profound, in a way that is true. Allan reminded us that the true transformation does not come from doing, it comes from being. When we allow ourselves to simply be, we connect with something deeper. We connect with our essence, and in that connection, we find peace. We find ourselves. The practice of listening for 30 days is not a challenge. It is an invitation to reconnect with what has always been inside of you, to listen to the silence, to hear the truth that lies within. In this silence, you will find